The Ururobo ethnicity, nationality, oil and gas producing communities, Urugan, Delta Central Senatorial District, Delta State, has complained to the National Assembly over the alleged marginalization in oil and gas facilities in Nigeria. A statement by its national chairman, Christopher Ominimini, said the Agbara Warri, Okere Urubo kingdoms of Warri South local government, Odopori and Ururobo communities contribute much to the economy of Nigeria through huge production of oil and gas without significant development. Joining us now on the show is Chief Obiuwevbi Ominimini, National Chairman, Ururobo Oil and Gas Nationality, Urugan. Great to have you, Chief.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
All right. Good morning, Chief. Let's get straight into it. Now, your concerns are that you are not benefiting from oil and gas. Can you outline some of your expectations that are not being met, that you feel should be in place?
Thank you very much for having me. You know, frankly, that oil and gas sustain the Nigeria economy. And Ururobo ethnic nationality produces high quantum in oil and gas. In fact, today, we have over 350 producing oil well, producing in high quantity. And the Ururobo is crisscrossed with a lot of gas and crude oil pipeline. But today, in the Nigeria project, we are nowhere to be found. For example, look at the composition of the board of NNPC, where you have the two executive directors and northerners, people who do not produce oil and gas. Meanwhile, the Ururobo ethnic nationality that produce oil and gas in large quantity, what Ururobo produces alone is more than Imo, Edo, and Ondo put together. That tells you the quantum of oil we produce. We don't have a sitting member in the board of NNPC. And again, you have a PTDF. PTDF trains people yearly on overseas scholarship. You cannot see any Ururobo man, any Ururobo daughter that is on the list of that scholarship. You see names like Abdullahi, you see names like Adamu, and so on and so forth. People who come from areas that do not bear the brunt of the oil production. Today, we the Ururobo people cannot farm. We cannot also fish. Our ecosystem has been bastardized. And the oil and gas we produce in the entire petroleum sector, we are nowhere to be found. For example, they decided to casualize our people. If you go to Warri Refinery and Petrochemical Company, our people are casuals. If you look at all the strategic business units in the oil and gas, our people are not there. For example, NNPC has about 55 chief executive or executive directors. Out of these 55, you have 36 for Northern Nigeria, and you have 16 for the entire Southern Nigeria. So Urobos are nowhere to be found. That the federal government, at the federal level, that is not a law. Even at the state level, we are being shortchanged. For example, 30% is being given to the state government. And in Delta State, we have a law called the Sopadec Law. 50% of the 30% ought to be given to the commission called the Sopadec, Delta State Oil Producing Area Development Commission, for the development of the oil producing areas. We cannot have projects from the Sopadec that is commensurate to the quantum of the oil we produce from that 50%. And in fact, the sharing formula that goes on in the Sopadec today is a mere allocation of figure. Okay. It ought to be on production.
Okay, but with due respect, the governor of Delta State, Sheriff Obiuwevbi, is an Ururobo man. Why are you complaining about the Sopadec? That Urobos interests are not being met when the governor is an Urhobo man?
Thank you very much for this question. The governor is an Urhobo man. We are talking of age-long neglect of the Urhobo people. For example, Ururobo has called on the state government to reach out to the appropriate federal government structure or office to give us the quantum of production until the quantum of production of each of the ethnic nationality in Delta State is gotten from the appropriate government office, in this case, Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission. The mere allocation is an injustice to the Urhobo people, because today in Desopade, the Urhobo people working there are suffering. Okay. They are being treated like second-class citizens.
So all of this is music to my ears. They are suffering, but the governor is an Urhobo man. I mean that because what concerns have you raised with the governor? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, it is the state that pretty much runs the Sopadec. So why have you not raised these concerns with the governor of the state? And why are you crying marginalization? A lot of people will look at you and say, Edo, we should not play this regional or ethnic politics. It's not good for national development. But I say you are crying marginalization in a state where the governor is an Urhobo man.
In fact, the marginalization is of two strata, from the federal government and even at the state level.
So let's deal with, so are you saying,
let me tell you.
Hang on a minute, are you saying that is an Urhobo man-led state government that is now marginalizing the Urhobo people? Is that what you're saying? That administration of Governor Sheriff Oborewori is marginalizing Urhobo people? Is that what you're saying?
For example,
is that what you're saying?
The 8-year tenure of Governor. Let me answer that question.
Okay.
For example, the 8-year tenure of Governor Okowa, Urhobos did not benefit, frankly speaking, because if that 50% was actually moved to Desopade, released to Desopade, and those monies were used for the oil producing area, we will benefit a lot. That is why we are calling on Governor Sheriff to reach out to the federal government appropriate office to give us the quantum of production for each ethnic nationality. And like I told you, I said it's a two strata. Look at the gas pipeline that is coming from Ururobo land. The federal government decided to name it Ajaokuta Kaduna Kano gas pipeline. The source of the gas, which is coming from Ururobo, is excluded from the name. That is another injustice to the Ururobo people.
Okay, so you have not answered my question. All of this, you can talk about the former governor of Delta. Granted your arguments there. But now you have an Ururobo man as governor. And this is not to support regional ethnic politics, please. What concerns have you raised? Are you now saying it's under the administration of Sheriff Oborewori and Ururobo man that the Ururobo people are being marginalized? I mean, you've talked about gas pipeline coming all the way up. I suppose you're talking about Otorogo gas pipeline in Otu Jeremy, because I know the place very well. But truth has to be said, is it under Sheriff Oborewori's administration that you feel this marginalization of the Urhobos? Yes or no?
Let me make this categorical statement. Until the Delta State government under the leadership of Sheriff Oborewori reaches out to the federal government appropriate body to have the empirical production figure of oil and gas for each ethnic nationality, where it will be used for allocation of resources in Desopade, the Ururobo man is marginalized.
So Sheriff Oborewori's government is also part of the marginalization of the Ururobo people, I reckon, from what you said.
From what I have said, it is very clear that the Ururobo has reached out to the government of Sheriff Oborewori to ensure that the production figure for each of the ethnic nationality in Delta State is produced and not hold on to the allocation that has been put on ground on mere allocation basis by previous government.
Hence marginalization.
And I tell you, my dear brother, Like I tell you, my dear brother, for example, look at Nigeria today. Because when we cry, it is good the federal government should look onto what we are saying. Nigeria has a gold reserve that is more than South Africa. The gold reserve alone in Zamfara is more than the gold reserve in South Africa. South Africa is driven by gold. The gold money in Nigeria is not at the table at the federal government to be shared by all the states in Nigeria. The individual families are mining them. But our oil and gas, we cannot mine them. As I talk to you, the lifespan of the Ururobo man is shortened. Do you imagine that only in Ururobo, we have over 20 flare sites of gas? In one of the flare sites, only the fire coming from the flare site in a month is enough to cook all the food in the Federal Capital Territory for 1 year.
Okay.
So we are breathing substances.
Okay. I mean, very, very good point about gas flare. But I think you didn't get your facts right. Before I come to you, Femi, you didn't get your facts right about empirical good results of Nigeria and South Africa. It has to be said. Femi, go ahead.
Understood. Well, Chief, thank you for your time and for your answers. You've talked a lot about the need for Ururobo representation, and I just would like you to clarify clearly what the end goal of that representation is. Is this a situation where you want more names that you recognize because of a simple box-ticking exercise, or do you think that the end goal of more representation would be a better prospect for these communities which are being ravaged? The environment there, the degradation there, the pollution there. Are you saying that you want more Ururobo voices, Ururobo presence, because you want the knockdown, the trickle down to be prosperity on the one hand, but also protection for this environment? Is that something that is also included in your desire to have more representation?
In fact, as I speak to you, you know I have told you that we cannot fish, we cannot farm. When I was a young man, I used to go to farm with my grandmother, and a plot of land will give you a very high quantity of harvest. Today, 300 of that same plot of land cannot give you even half of what harvest you will get from your farm. That tells you that the Ururobo man today, our traditional main source of livelihood, is being taken away. And the federal government is doing nothing about it. Ururobo needs cleanup. In fact, people talk of Ogoni. The devastation in Ururobo forest, in our farmland, is even more than the Ogoni land. That is why today the lifespan of the Ururobo people is shortened. If you put your hand into your nursery in Ururobo, in fact, what you will take out is black substances. What 70% of our money is going for health. If you get to the general hospitals, if you get to the teaching hospitals in Ogara, it's filled up daily because there are diseases. Even the medical experts cannot even tell you their names. So our lifespan is endangered, and we are not benefiting. We are not talking of benefiting from gold or columbite or uranium. We are talking of the oil and gas we produce, and we are nowhere to be found. Ururobo man deserve to be on the board of NNPC. In fact, we are calling on President Tinubu, President of Federal Republic of Nigeria, to dissolve the NNPC board and reconstitute it with an Ururobo man holding an executive position in NNPC, because the quantum of oil and gas we produce is very, very high. If we were to be an independent nation, Ururobo will develop like Dubai, because we have the resources. We have large land for agriculture and we cannot farm. We have access to the sea. You must also understand that Ururobo has been very loyal to the Nigeria project. Okay. In this country where there was civil war.
All right, Chief, let's clarify one or two points that you've made. When you're seeking your redress for marginalization, are you saying that being given a position at NNPC is going to correct all of the ills that you've pointed out? That's the first question. Because you're not talking about, other, we want to know about the other programs that you want to see being rolled out. Will one individual being on the board of NNPC benefit the whole community? And then secondly, let's talk about the empirical evidence. Let's not run away from that, because you're saying that, these are the number of oil wells we have and so forth, and we're not seeing it's evident in the environment that the environment is not well looked after. That's across the whole Niger Delta region. But the question is, in your research, how much in Naira and Kobo do you feel should be coming that you are being shortchanged of?
Thank you. From our calculation, which is factual, in fact today, if I tell you that this is the figure, people will say I'm not government agency. Ururobo produces about 40% of the oil and gas coming from Delta State. You also know that Delta State produces the highest oil and gas in Nigeria. Apart from the NNPC, I will not spare NDDC. Federal government, on one hand, has released huge amount of money to the region for the development of the oil-producing area. 30% of the production, so said, is given to Delta State government and all the state government. Some part of the money is also given to NDDC to develop the oil-producing area. In fact, Ururobo has not benefited commensurate to the production of oil and gas from NDDC. For example, I told you that what Ururobo produces is more than Imo, Edo, and Ondo put together. But today, we don't have commensurate project from NDDC. And we are calling on this present board and management of NDDC to ensure that Ururobo people benefit. The few projects we have in Ururobo, they are abandoned. What is the reason for abandonment of those projects? It is because they are not funded. Okay. So NDDC should allocate resources based on quantum of production.
Okay, and you haven't answered my first question, which is that this marginalization, the redress, are you saying it's by appointing Ururobo people to the board of NNPC? Is it by appointment? So, because the minister, we already have a minister of for Delta, Keyamo, he's an Ururobo man. The governor, as Rufai emphasized, is Ururobo. So the question is, will appointing more Ururobo people, is that the redress you're seeking?
I have enumerated so many problems and the solution to them. For example, how do you feel if you were to be an Ururobo man, every year you see name published by PTDF for scholarship in the petroleum, training of people in the petroleum sector. Ururobo people are not there. We are saying that as Nigeria consider people to be trained in the petroleum sector, giving their scholarship overseas, also take Ururobo people. Yes, Keyamo is an Ururobo son as a Minister of Aviation and Aerospace. We are talking of the oil and gas sector, where we are a major producer. In fact, appointing Ururobo into executive position in the oil and gas sector will also help Ururobo to develop. You cannot be you can.
So to a large extent, I'll put it to you, sir. I see a lot of ethnic politics being played here, and I see a lot of not straight talking here. And I'll give you empirical facts. Number one, since the return to democracy, we've had 2 governors of Delta State of Ururobo extraction. It's not the only Urhobos that are in Delta states. We had Chief James Onanefe Ibori from 1999 to 2007. Then we had Emmanuel Oweta Oduanga. Then we had Governor Ifeanyi Okowa. Now we are back to Ururobo, which is Sheriff Oboriwori. Other parts of Delta too can cry foul. A lot of contracts in the oil and gas sector have been given to Ururobo people. A lot of government facilities, like I mentioned, of Ururobo gas plants in Otu Jeremy.
It's not true.
Hang on a minute, let me finish. I'm giving you facts. You can go and verify. Ururobo gas plant is in Otu Jeremy. I, Rufai Hosseini, worked in GFM radio station that was in Otu Jeremy, so I know about the gas plant. It's not that they told me. You have a Federal University of Petroleum Resources in Ururobo, don't you? Then you have the Petroleum Training Institute in Efron, PTI. What else? I ask you. Why didn't you put all of this in the conversation? There are many people in the super deck that has also been Ururobo that have run the super deck. My memory serves me right. Please, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Is Chief Wellington Okrika an Ururobo man? And even when you had, what is it called? When you had all of these governors in there, there were things that were done for the Ururobo area. So, in Warri alone and environs, because Ururobo is not far from PTI, it's just on that expressway close to PTI. You have a Federal University of Petroleum Resources, then you have PTI there. Are these infrastructures not built by government? So what are you saying? I be worry boy. That's my position. I be proper worry boy.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Rufai. God bless you for bringing up this issue. What we are saying is the benefit of this infrastructure to the Ururobo people. Ururobo gas plant is a disservice to the Ururobo people. It would have been a good service to the Ururobo people if we are getting the benefit. Ururobo gas plant is a source through which Nigeria sucks the resources of Nigeria from Ururobo land. It's a drain pipe to the Ururobo people. You take our gas from Ururobo gas plants Otu Jeremy, yet we don't benefit. Go to Otu Jeremy. This is rainy season. You cannot access it. No road, no hospital. In fact, look at the line of staff in the NGC, Nigeria Gas Company. Look at the line of staff. Look at the composition of board of NGC. This is the cry of our people. You won't see Ururobo man there in our God's-given resources. So the Ururobo gas plant is a plan that is meant to put money at the coffers of the federal government at the detriment of the Ururobo people. NGC today, there is no Ururobo man at the board of NGC. In fact, look at the first line staff. You will see Ururobo man there. All the director of human resources of all the oil parastatals in Nigeria, you will see Ururobo man there. This is the cry of our people. If people say that trying to get justice is ethnicity, then I will agree with you. But if trying to get justice is not an ethnicity, then that theory is wrong. Look at the Petroleum Training Institute, for example. You give us Petroleum Training Institute. The only thing you can give us is only when it comes to ad hoc management staff. But when it comes to appointment of substantive principal, you will give it to the Ururobo man. And Ururobo man have played second fiddle in their community, in the resources that God has given to them. You talk of the petroleum, you talk of the university in Ugbomro.
You see, all of these things were done on Ururobo land. And I've also been able to state to you, because when you talk about this justice, you talk as though nothing has been done. You talked about Ururobo glass plants, which I had to argue with you that it is there, it is on that soil. If the resource generated are not used to benefit, the people of Otu Jeremy, that can also be placed on the local government. All of these things have been done on Ururobo land, and that's just it. And we've had 2 governors in all of this time. So that's the most important thing. So things too have been done on this land. As we wrap up, you have been able to enunciate your concerns. You have a governor of Ururobo extraction. What do you like to tell him as we wrap up?
In fact, I want to tell the governor, Governor Sheriff Obiuwevbi, to do the right thing by demanding for the production quantum of each of the oil-producing communities in Delta State, so that government can come up with true position of the production quantum of each of the communities, so that mere allocations of figure of production will not exist in Desopade, so that Urobo people in Desopade will not suffer as they are now. We are calling on President Tinubu to dissolve the NNPC board and reconstitute it with an Urobo man as a member of the board of NDDC, of NNPC, because we produce oil and gas in large quantum. We are also calling on the federal government to name the Ajaokuta-Kaduna pipeline gas project as Urobo, Ajaokuta-Kaduna Kano gas pipeline project. We are calling on PTDF to ensure in their annual training and scholarship for Nigeria, Urobo that produces oil and gas should also be included. Let me tell you one major thing. For example, the pre-shipment inspection that is being carried out in Nigeria. Urobo oil, Isoko oil, Udokwa oil flow through the Transforcados line to the oil and gas export terminal. But with Urobo, we are not taken as part of the host communities.
Okay.
You export our oil and gas through a terminal, and you don't employ our children.
Okay. So
even our children employed there were terminated.
So as we wrap up too, let's also forget that a lot of oil too is produced on Isoko land and other lands, you know, in Delta State. But I get your point and I get your advocacy. Thank you so much for your time.